Will I start or will you, Liz?
It's all you, Jerry.
Okay. Glad everybody's here today. Thank you for coming to this Lunch and Learn on managing good relations with your advisor, communicate, collaborate, and activate. I'm Jerry Hauser. I'm a faculty ombuds at the university, which means that I'm an emeritus professor and work with faculty and graduate students who come to the scholars or the ombuds office in order to talk about issues and problems and nettlesome situations that they're finding in the workplace. So I'm going to turn off my my video and want to begin with a poll. So I've got a couple of questions at the beginning. So the first question is, I am working on a PhD degree, yes or no? Okay, wow. All right, so we're almost even, 60-40 split on I'm working toward a PhD degree. About 60% of you are, and about 40% of you are not. Okay, and now let's see, we've got a second question here. And so question number 2 is, hello. All right. My degree will be in a STEM discipline, yes or no? Okay, so we have, again, about a 60-40 split. Wow, okay, a little bit heavier now, almost 65% are in STEM disciplines, and about 40%, 35% are in other disciplines. Okay, so so there we have it. Now let's that's helpful because some of the things that I talk about are going to relate to the pan out differently depending upon whether you're in a STEM discipline or you're not in a STEM discipline, whether you're working as a master's degree or doctoral degree. So our topic today is advisor relationships. And the advisor is probably, the relationship is probably the most important relationship you're going to form in graduate school, because you're asking a faculty member to look over your shoulder, to mentor your development in a specific specialization, to certify your preparation as an independent researcher if you're a doctoral student, or a qualified professional if you're working on a professional master's degree. They're a person you look to help you launch your career. And so selection of an advisor and developing your relationship is an important, maybe the most important decision of your doctoral program. So when you are trying to manage relations with your advisor, you want to keep in mind that your advisor-advisee relationship is time-bound. For PhD students, it's 4 to 6 years in most cases. For master's students, maybe 2 years. And that relationship needs to begin with a self-assessment. You need to ask yourself why you are in graduate school. What are your goals upon graduation? How does that match up with your advisor? Having a person who is not interested in your work or you're not interested in their work usually doesn't lead to a very good relationship. You want somebody who can get excited about your ideas and whose ideas excite you. So the first thing is a kind of self-assessment. Who am I? Why am I here? The second concern is managing time with your advisor judiciously. The advisor is a busy person. They may be working on multiple projects, have multiple doctoral students, have a variety of professional roles and duties. Some of them are editors, some of them are officers in their societies or working on committees. They have a lot of faculty duties. So you need to manage your time with your advisor judiciously. And there's three things I want to talk about to manage your time with your advisor: communicate, collaborate, and activate. So the first concern is to communicate. Communication is really important with your advisor, and how you communicate is going to be really important. So I think it's at the beginning you want to discuss with how your advisor wishes to interact. Advisors have preferences, and those preferences vary from individual to individual. You don't want to expect that your advisor is going to comply with your preferences, at least not without a discussion. So another thing to keep in mind about your interactions with your advisor is that scholars keep weird hours. A lot of scholars are night owls. They send emails in the middle of the night. When you receive an email in the middle of the night, that doesn't necessarily mean your advisor wants you to respond in the middle of the night, but that's what was on their mind in the middle of the night, and they send it to you and they expect you to get back tomorrow. So what you want to do is find out what their expectations might be, get clear on this, and if there's a problem with their expectations, then discuss it. Another thing to worry about is preferred medium. Some advisors really like email. Some advisors like face-to-face interaction. Some are phobic about the phone. Others like the phone. So talk about how they want you to communicate with them. What's their preferred frequency? Do they want you to check in every month, once a semester, every couple of weeks? Personally, I would be a little leery if you were not checking in more than once a semester. You probably want to be checking in every 2 or 3 weeks, depending upon the work that you're doing and the need for you to consult with your advisor. But find out what their preferred frequency is so that you can stay in touch. I've had advisees who didn't stay in touch. Where were they? They disappeared. They show up 6 months later. I didn't know where they were intellectually, where they were on their project, or where they had been, or what was happening in their life. So it's very, very important that you stay in frequent touch. And what's their preference for frequency? Communicate regularly within your advisor's preferences then. And finally, come prepared. You don't want to come in and be disorganized and expect your advisor to sort it out for you. That it's not going to work well because they've got a lot of things going on. So be ready to cut to the chase. The second thing I want to talk about is collaborating. In your managing your relations with your advisor, collaboration is really important. If you're a PhD student, you're moving from a period where you are just beginning, perhaps on a master's degree, and they're giving you a lot of basic training in terms of how to become an independent researcher. At the end of that process, at the end of the arc, when you're getting near the end of your PhD program, you really are working closely with somebody for a long time, and you become much more of a collaborator, sharing ideas. And so this collaborative mode is something that you want to begin cultivating as soon as you can. So first, jointly draft a right now plan. A right now plan is not a master plan. It's not how you do what's going to happen over the next 4 to 6 years. It's rather setting short-term goals and expectations that can be modified across time. What do I need to accomplish in the next month? What do I need to accomplish this semester? Secondly, what is your research project attempting to accomplish? Get clear on that. What's the objective? What are the goals? And then third, how does your research relate to your advisors, especially with, in all areas, actually, it's not just in STEM disciplines, but in all areas, all faculty members have specific research areas, focus, projects they're working on, where their passions are working out. And so it's important for you, not that you become a clone of your advisor, but that there is a parent relationship for you between your research and your advisors, so that you've got common ground to talk about your work, relate your work to your advisors' work to you. Work with your advisor to prioritize so you're both on the same page. What are the things I need to be worried about this semester? What are the things I need to be worried about in the next month? What are the things I need to be worried about in the next 2 weeks? Make sure you're both agreeing to that. And then afterwards, in a meeting with your advisor, summarize your takeaways, what you understand is the next step. Thank you so much for this meeting, blah, blah, blah. It was very productive. Here were my takeaways. Here's what I think you're going to do next. Your advisor is going to appreciate your keeping things on track. The third quality I'd like to suggest is activate. Have a discussion with your advisor about the graduate school advising agreement guidelines. And Liz is sharing a link with you now go to that agreement and read it over. And if you're at the beginning of your program especially, have a discussion with your advisor about these guidelines because they will be very helpful in terms of raising topics that you can hash through to sort of pave the way for the future. Keep your advisor in the loop about developments that might impact your work progress or advising or other prior agreements. A lot of graduate students that I talk to tell me about health problems, family problems, commitments outside the university that suddenly have arisen, or other issues that have been preoccupying them. They may be distressing because their parents, for example, are ill, and the advisor doesn't know about it, and the student is not making good progress on their project because they're focusing on something else. And the advisor doesn't know it. All they see is lack of progress. So what's going on here? Depending upon where you are in your program, they could think, is the person ill? Is there something wrong? This person isn't making progress. Maybe they're not cut out for this degree. Whatever it is, keep your advisor in the loop. This may sometimes get into delicate areas, and the ombuds are there to assist you in thinking through how to communicate them. So if you are trying to keep your advisor in, you want to put your advisor in the loop, we're not sure you should put your advisor in the loop, and how to proceed next, come and see us and we'll help you work through it. Okay, so what are we saying in terms of managing relations with your advisor? First of all, self-assessment. Why you're in grad school? What are your goals upon graduation? How does that match with your advisor? Then manage your time judiciously with your advisor. Communicate, collaborate, and activate, and always come prepared. Now I'd like to turn to another aspect of graduate school, which is sort of related to your advisor, but sometimes not really, and that is cultivating mentors. When you are in graduate school, one of the things that you need to do is create your intellectual network. Your intellectual network would consist of your advisor. It can consist of other members of the faculty. It can consist of faculty members in other departments, postdocs, other graduate students, sometimes other graduate students in other departments. To put it in the simplest terms, these are folks who enjoy shop talk, and they can engage in meaningful shop talk with you and you with them. It's an intellectual network, and it's your job to create that network. If you expect your mentors to do it, it's probably not going to happen. So that leads us to make a distinction between advisors and mentors. Advising is a short-term relationship that focuses on information and guidance to the learner. Mentoring is more intricate. It's a long-term, one-on-one relationship that goes beyond providing information. Now, usually you only have one advisor, and you'd like your advisor to be a mentor, and many will, but some will not. So you may have multiple mentors, including your advisors. Mentors are specific to your needs, and they tailor their mentoring to your needs. You may need to have a sense of professional development, or you may need some help in terms of understanding publication, or you may be running into problems in terms of the whole dissertation process. And sometimes a mentor who has a long-term one-on-one relationship sees how you're stuck and why you're stuck and can help you out in ways that sometimes advisors miss. Or hopefully your advisor is able to do that as well. Don't get trapped into comparing the type of mentoring you receive with what others appear to receive. Every mentor is going to be different. Every student's needs are going to be different. And so you need to be sensitive to what those differences are. So mentor relationships, finally, may last a lifetime, so it's worth cultivating them. So now we need to cultivate mentors. So what are you looking for? You're looking for faculty members who share your interests. Usually mentors are people who just enjoy shop talk with you, and they find it incredibly interesting. So how do your interests intersect with theirs? When you meet with them, come prepared. Engage them in discussion of their research. Introduce them to your research. Second, you pursue common interests with your instructional faculty. Why your instructional faculty? Because they know you from class, and usually they're receptive to continuing a conversation that grows from a shared intellectual interest. When you go to see somebody who's been on your instructional faculty after the class is over, but it's always a good idea, even when the class is going on, come prepared. And then continue to cultivate common interests with your advisor and others on the faculty. Don't be afraid to approach the faculty other than your advisor for career advice, shop talk on your research interests. Those are always welcome conversations. And again, come prepared. So what can go wrong? Well, some advisor traits can be problematic. For example, advisors may be inconsistent in their demands or advice. They tell you, this is what I want you to do, then you think you're doing it, and then they change track, or they advise you to go in this direction. You go in that direction, and they say, why did you go in that direction? Their inconsistency, and it's frustrating. They fail to give you credit for your participation in research or your own breakthroughs. And as I hear it, it is not so much the advisor is taking the credit for your work, but they're asking you to shift your focus to another part of the project and pass off what you've done to somebody else who's just beginning their work. And you're thinking, oh my God, that's my baby. And now I have to give it up to somebody else, and I won't get any credit for my research. That's a problem. They can become abusive. They may make personally diminishing remarks. They may sometimes do it in front of other students. Sometimes they may make ethnically inappropriate comments. This is a problem. They may become unavailable. You're working on your dissertation. Your advisor is making the grand tour of Europe. You're writing your dissertation chapters. Your advisor's not available, or not giving you feedback at least on, and so is unavailable on the work that you're doing. That's a problem. They seem to undervalue or possibly undermine your work. They make you feel that, well, what you're doing is not so significant, or well, you know, there's we're gonna take the work that you're doing and pass it off to somebody else, and or the project is going to go in a different direction, or you're not really going to be involved in the writing of this paper because your work only had this little segment over here, and really they're denying you the extensions of your work that you think are legitimately yours. Or they can make you uncertain there's a path to your degree, and that is really problematic, because if you don't have a path to your degree, then how am I going to get out of here? How am I going to get on with my life? So that's a problem that we often see in the Ombuds office. At what to do when things go wrong? Well, there are a couple of things you can keep in mind. First, avoid using email to express grievances, complaints, or attempt to resolve perceived differences, issues, or concerns. Email is not a good medium for dealing with grievances or complaints, because it does not allow you to have back and forth. People read into statements things that are not intended. It gets exploded into a bigger problem than it started. So basically, our mantra is avoid using email to deal with grievances. Seek a face-to-face meeting where you can talk about the problems that you're encountering and that you'd like to resolve, so you can move forward. And again, come to that meeting prepared. It's essential also that you have mentors who can assist you in these situations. Faculty members that you can go to talk about problems you might have, and get their advice in a confidential conversation about how you might proceed with Professor X, who is posing a problem at this particular point. And finally, contact the Ombuds office. Myself, Jerry Hauser, and Yam Fong, my colleague, we're both here to help you through your options. So I guess I need to go to chat now, and that will help me see if there are any questions. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any yet, Jerry. Go ahead, if you haven't already, open up your chat boxes. That's a great way to communicate to us if you have a question for Jerry. I'm also putting out a reminder that these sessions are recorded, and a video recording of this Lunch and Learn will be available on our website later today. Just go to colorado.edu/bolt/ombuds and go under the Lunch and Learns tab. I can put that link up here in a second as well.
Okay, so I've got from Sarah Adams, I'm curious about meeting faculty, including in other departments, to seek mentorship. Is there a structured way to meet other faculty? Not really a structured way, Sarah, but, well, let me take that back. No, let me not take that back. There isn't a structured way. How do you do that? Well, one way is you attend colloquia in departments. If you're looking for other departments, if you know any graduate students there, or you can go to a website where you think likely faculty would be, that will help you to go to a colloquium that they're having and hear talks that might be of interest to you. Other graduate students, the Grapevine is a terrific way of finding out faculty members that share your interests. You have to kind of nose around to find out about them. If you've if you take courses outside your department, of course, that's a good way. So there isn't any really structured way to do it. It's more detective work on your part. I've got a question from Kyle Schultz. Apologize if I missed it. Could you explain what the Ombuds Office is? Yeah, the Ombuds Office is a resource that's available to faculty, staff, and students. It's voluntary resource that helps members of the CU community address problems that they may be encountering in the workplace. Workplace is broadly defined. They could go all the way from, I can't get along with this other person who's my lab mate, to I can't figure out how to navigate the system. It's too big, cumbersome, and complex. So whenever you are having a difficulty of that sort, what we try to do is help you come to clarity on what the issues are, figure out strategies for addressing those issues, try to come to a clarity on what your interests are in with a particular problem. Last week, Liz Hill was talking about interests, so you can go to her presentation from last week and get some really good pointers on it, and then even help coach you in ways to go forward. So that's kind of what we do. Let's see, I've got Christopher Trujillo. With COVID-19, do you have any advice on how to handle the potential change to the advisor-advisee relationship with potentially less in-person meetings? Part of this depends on how familiar you are with your advisor, but I think people have sort of gravitated towards Zoom. So that would be one way to go. Another would be phone conversations. Try to be really clear on, if you're going to have a Zoom meeting, the amount of time that you need. And if there are any pre-meeting materials to share, be sure to do that. Okay. If I've missed anybody, I'm sorry.
I'm looking, Jerry. I don't think you missed anything. I'm just putting some reminders. Oh, here's one from Maya. Do you have any advice on cultivating mentorships in the age of COVID-19?
That's a really, now there's a hill we're going to have to climb, isn't it? It's hard to just drop it out of the blue and say to a faculty member that you don't know, gee, would you be open to a Zoom to talk? I know I'm busy. I don't think I can do that. So that would be difficult. On the other hand, if you have a common ground with a faculty member, it could be your research area, or it could be some other intellectual interest that you share, and dropping them a note saying, I know that you're working on this, I'm working on something related to it, can we talk? If it's a career thing, then a faculty member, usually you want somebody who's trusted by you, who knows you, and ask them again, I would rely on Zoom, and ask them if you can meet with them over Zoom, that you need some career advice, and you'd like to have a confidential meeting with them, and see if they're open to that. Okay, Ginny.
You got two more. Ginny and Caitlin have
okay, Ginny, do you have advice for students who need to have a hard conversation, like considering switching advisors or wanting to leave a PhD with a master's degree? My suggestion, Ginny, would be that you should come into the Ombuds office and talk with one of us about how to have that conversation, because there's a lot that goes into that conversation. Switching advisors can be really, really easy, or leaving a program could be easy or could be difficult. I think at the root, the easy conversation usually resides in a shift of interests. If you only get to do this once, so if your interests have changed, usually you can make that argument and it's difficult to argue with it. If it's other things that are afoot, then it probably gets a little bit more complicated, and we're here to help you. We've done this numerous times, so we're both Yem and I are available to you. What recommendations do you have for building networks within CU and other departments during work at home? That's really, really hard to do it with other departments. Working through the grapevine of if you have contacts with graduate students and other departments who can broker an invitation for you and a faculty member to have a conversation, or some other person who's in that position, that would really be helpful. If you are making a cold call, obviously that's not going to work. One way of doing it that is usually effective is if you can cite specific work that a faculty member has done that you particularly like. It relates to your work, or you admire it, or whatever. And you send them an email and say, I just read your article. I really am psyched by the research you're doing. I wonder if you would have time to talk with me about it. And you can possibly arrange a Zoom. I know whenever a student knocked on my door and said, oh, Dr. Hauser, I've read your article on blah, 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 and I'm really interested in that work. Do you have time to talk? I would just get so thrilled because I love talking about my research. That was my happy place. We all like to talk shop. That's why when we get out of the shop, people may find us a little strange, but people in the shop think it's terrific. So finding a basis for shop talk is really good. What is the timeline for pairing students with advisors? Will new students get an advisor before the start of the program or during the first semester? That's contingent on the practices in the department. If you are, Brian, if you are in a, other than a STEM discipline, then the department may have a graduate advisor who handles all of the students at the beginning, or they may have a system of temporary advisors that they pair you up with. Usually new students start to settle on an advisor in the non-STEM disciplines by the end of the first semester or beginning of the second at the very latest, but usually during the first semester. If you are in a STEM discipline, usually when you come in, you are assigned to a particular research team. Sarah Adams wants to know about peer mentoring. Do you have it? I really don't have any advice about, I don't have enough familiarity with the peer mentoring program to say anything smart. Better not to say nothing than to say something that's not smart. You're welcome. I think we've reached 12:30. If there are no more questions, then I'm going to thank everybody who participated, who came to this, and I hope you found it worthwhile. And if you want to follow up at all, you can reach me at jerry.hauser@colorado.edu. Take care.
Thank you. And also to add, for those of you still on the call, we do have a feedback survey. It's available on the website. I put it in the chat box. It's under the Lunch and Learns, and just go to Jerry's presentation. You'll see a feedback survey link there as well. Thanks so much, everyone.